The reason why I say this is because it's an accurate reflection of the state of the Ummah. In that the Ummah's never actually been weak. The Ummah's always had power. Ibn Khaldun used to say that the Ummah is always one generation away from glory. Because Ibn Khaldun argued that Allah has already equipped the Ummah with the power it needs to be glorious. It's whether the Muslims choose to deploy that power or not, and whether they believe in that power. Once the Muslims do that, it unlocks an irresistible wave that results in glory for the Ummah. And this is the scenario I imagine, and this is where I finish. I wanted to finish on this point. I imagine one day, if Allah accepts our efforts, inshallah, and if Allah rewards us with it, and it's something that we pray for, and I hope one day, even if we're not deserving of it, Allah in His mercy will give it to us, which is Jannat al-Firdaus. I imagine one day, Muhammad Jal, me and you, and the other people in this room, we're sitting in the gathering of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and we arrive. This is what I imagine we arrive and we walk, and we say, Assalamu alaikum. And they say, Wa alaikum salam. Salah ad-Din Ayyubi is just finishing his story, telling Umar ibn Khattab how he liberated Al-Aqsa. And I always imagine maybe a conversation with Umar Khattab saying, but when you entered, Ya Salah ad-Din, did you uphold the rights of the Jews and the Christians? Did you do to them what they did to us, or did you uphold the Islamic way? We know they are anti-Semites. We know they persecute the Jews, but Muslims don't. What did you do with the Jews after you entered Jerusalem? Salah ad-Din Ayyubi would say, we brought them back and gave them sanctity and comfort. Because every time anti-Semitic Europe would persecute them, whether in Spain or in Poland or after the Holocaust, they always came to the Muslim lands. Umar Khattab would say, Ahsant. And then we sit down, we say, Salam alaikum ya Rasulullah, and we sit down with the Sahaba, and they will say, which generation are you from? And we might say, we're from a generation that didn't achieve much materially, but we did the best that we could. And then another man will come afterwards and he'll sit, or a sister, and they will come and sit. They'll say, Salam alaikum salam. Which generation are you from? We're from the generation that liberated Al-Aqsa after his generation there. And we will be excited, excited, but envious in a good way. We wish we'd been that generation, but tell us how it was done. Do you know what I want to hear? I hope that I hear one day. I hope that the person turns around to me and you, Jel, and he says, you know, when I was a kid, I heard the Thinking Muslim podcast. And I saw the efforts of those who came before us, those who liberated the Muslim world from colonization in the 1950s, 1960s, paved the way for our semi-independence, the Arab Spring that showed us that authoritarian regimes are not invincible, and then those Muslims who emerged and said you could be Muslim and you could preserve your deen and you could succeed in life, and that they changed public opinion. They broke Israel's monopoly over the narrative, which allowed us to speak more freely. We were able to call it an apartheid regime. Then we were able to take opportunities. And I hope one day that he says to Rasulullah, and he says to him, Ya Rasulullah, but for these people we wouldn't have liberated Al-Aqsa, though perhaps they didn't achieve it in their lifetimes. Ya Rasulullah, they are the ones deserving of the credit. That's the scenario I imagine, inshallah. That's the scenario that I hope, even if I don't achieve Aqsa. But what I do know is we have to keep moving. And that's why if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But I promise you, Wallahi alladhi la ilaha illahu, Blinken buckled because of public opinion when the Ummah roared and raised the voices of the Palestinians. Netanyahu buckled, Bin Salman buckled, Bin Zayed buckled, Erdogan buckled. All of these people, they buckled.